My girlfriend pushed for an open relationship, then lost it when I moved on with her sister. All right, I need to get this out because my head is still spinning. I, 29M, was in what I thought was a stable, happy relationship with my girlfriend, Olivia, 27F. We had been together for 2 years, living together for 1. And to be honest, I thought we were on the path toward forever. We had that comfortable rhythm couples fall into when things are going well. Lazy Sunday brunches at this overpriced cafe, where she always ordered the same avocado toast and stole half my pancakes. Movie nights where she made me watch absolute garbage reality TV just so we could roast the contestants together. Dumb little inside jokes, like how she called me her human heater because she was always cold and used me as her personal blanket. She was affectionate, sometimes a little too much, not in a clingy way, just in a way that made me feel like I was important to her. She would grab my hand in public when another woman looked at me for too long. She'd roll her eyes when a waitress smiled at me. Once, I held the door open for a female coworker, and Olivia acted weird about it all day like I had whispered my number into the woman's ear. So you can understand why my entire world tilted when, out of nowhere, she sat me down on the couch one night and said, "Babe, I think we should try an open relationship." I laughed, because obviously, she had to be joking, right? She wasn't. She just looked at me calmly, like she was asking what we should order for dinner. "We're still young," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "And I just think it would be good for us to have new experiences before we completely settle down." I set my drink down slowly. Because what the actual hell? Where is this coming from? I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She immediately shook her head. "It's not because I'm unhappy, I swear. I just don't want us to look back and feel like we missed out on something." She reached across the couch, taking my hand in hers. "I love you. I really do. And I think this could actually make us stronger." "Stronger?" She said it so earnestly, like she had already thought this through, like she had practiced this speech in her head. And then she played her ace. "I mean, if you're not open to it, I won't force it. But I don't want to start resenting you, you know?" And that was when I felt trapped. Because if I said no, I would have become a controlling, insecure guy who was keeping her from exploring, and she would have started doing it behind my back. If I said yes, I would actually be giving her a free pass to cheat. It was a lose-lose situation. I should have stood my ground. I should have walked away. But instead, like an absolute idiot, I agreed. And that was the moment everything fell apart. The next morning, she was already swiping. I barely slept that night. My mind was racing with questions. Was she already interested in someone else? Had she been thinking about this for a while? What the hell had I just agreed to? I told myself maybe we'd ease into this. Maybe she would have set boundaries first. Maybe we'd even discuss rules so this didn't completely wreck our relationship. But nope, because the next morning, Olivia was already scrolling through the dating app over breakfast. I walked into the kitchen, still groggy, and saw her smiling at her phone. She was barely even touching her coffee, just scrolling, tapping, scrolling, tapping. She noticed me looking and grinned like this was the most normal thing in the world. Might as well see what's out there, right? Like it was nothing. Like she hadn't just completely rewritten the rules of our relationship overnight. That was the moment it really hit me. This wasn't something she was curious about. This wasn't something she wanted to experiment with together. She had been waiting for this. And now that she had my approval, she was full speed ahead. She was out the door in days. By the end of that first week, she already had dates lined up. She started coming home late, barely even texting me where she was. Our routines? Completely gone. Sunday brunches? Now girls' nights. Our movie marathons? Canceled. One night, she walked into the apartment, giggling at her phone, kicked off her heels, and collapsed onto the couch. She looked happy, excited, like she had just gotten back from the best date of her life. I didn't even know what to say. She must have noticed me watching because she finally glanced up and smiled. "Oh, hey, how was your night?" Like I had just been sitting at home, knitting a sweater while she was out dating other people. I swallowed hard. Fine. I wanted to ask everything. Where was she? Who was she with? Was she sleeping with them? Was this worth throwing away what we had? But I didn't ask, because deep down, I already knew. I was losing her. And the worst part? She didn't care. I tried to match her energy. I downloaded a dating app, swiped through some profiles, but I couldn't do it. I didn't want anyone else. I just wanted her. And that's when I realized something Olivia never expected. She thought I'd stay loyal while she had her fun. She thought I'd never actually go through with it. And for a while, she was right. I let it go on for too long. At first, I kept telling myself that Olivia would come around, that maybe she was just getting something out of her system, some last-ditch attempt at so-called freedom before she settled down for real, that she would realize how much she missed me, missed us, and call the whole thing off. But she didn't. She just kept pushing me further away, like she was testing how much I could take before I finally snapped. Her dates became more frequent. The time she spent with me dwindled down to almost nothing. She'd come home and barely acknowledge me, as if I was just some guy in the background of her real life. And then one night, I overheard her talking to one of her friends on the phone while she was getting ready to go out. I wasn't eavesdropping on purpose. I was just passing by the bedroom when I caught a snippet of her conversation. She was laughing, saying how surprised she was that I hadn't gone out with anyone yet. How she honestly thought I would have jumped at the chance to sleep around, but instead, I was just moping at home like some heartbroken puppy. She said she felt bad, not because she missed me, but because it was kind of pathetic. And that was it. That was the moment something in me finally broke. Because I realized the truth. She didn't respect me. She didn't see me as someone worth fighting for, worth keeping, worth choosing. She saw me as some safe, reliable placeholder. Someone she could come back to if nothing better worked out. And I was done. The night, everything changed. I wasn't planning on going out that night. In fact, I wasn't planning on anything. I just needed to get out of the apartment, away from the emptiness Olivia had left behind. I wanted to be anywhere but there, surrounded by the remnants of a relationship that no longer existed. So I went to a bar. Nothing fancy, just a small, quiet place a few blocks away, somewhere I could sit in the corner with a drink and not think about Olivia. But that's when I saw her. Luna. I had met Olivia's older sister exactly twice before this night. Once, briefly, at a family event that Olivia dragged me to. The second time, by accident, when she bumped into us at a coffee shop and exchanged a few awkward pleasantries before leaving in a hurry. And that was it. I barely knew anything about her, except for what Olivia had told me, which wasn't much. She never talked about Luna unless she absolutely had to. And when she did, it was always with some kind of bitterness in her tone. Luna was the screw-up, the troublemaker, the wild one. She was the selfish one who never cared about family, who always had to be different just for the sake of it. At least, that's what Olivia said. But sitting there at the bar, watching Luna casually sip her drink, I found it hard to believe any of that was true. She looked normal, just a woman enjoying a night out alone. I didn't approach her right away. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to. But then she saw me, and she recognized me immediately, and that was how we ended up drinking together. I expected Luna to be cold, maybe even dismissive. After all, she and Olivia weren't close, and I was just some guy Olivia had been dating. But she wasn't. She was sarcastic, a little blunt, but weirdly easy to talk to, and she knew exactly what Olivia had been up to. She asked if Olivia had suggested an open relationship. I told her yes. She sighed, shaking her head, saying she wasn't surprised. Apparently, Olivia had always been this way. Always needed to be the one in control. Always had to make sure she was the one calling the shots. She had a pattern of pulling people in, making them feel like they were her whole world, only to get bored and start looking for an escape route. It was just what she did, and I had fallen for it like an idiot. But I wasn't feeling pathetic anymore. Not sitting there, listening to Luna tear apart the illusion I had built around Olivia. Because for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. I wasn't crazy for thinking Olivia had played me. I wasn't overreacting for feeling like I had been used. I wasn't imagining things. Luna could see it too, and she told me something that stuck with me. She said Olivia had expected me to wait for her, that this wasn't about us exploring together. This was about her exploring while I stayed put. She had never actually wanted me to do the same. And that's when I realized Olivia might have started this game. I wasn't planning on doing anything. Really, I wasn't. But there was something about Luna. Maybe it was the fact that she understood exactly what I was feeling. Maybe it was the fact that she was so different from Olivia. Genuine, grounded, not obsessed with appearances. Or maybe I was just tired. Tired of being the guy who got left behind. Tired of being the one who was expected to wait. Tired of feeling like a doormat. One drink turned into another. One laugh turned into a lingering glance. One casual touch on my arm turned into something more. And that was it. That was the moment I stopped waiting. Olivia had no idea that her little open relationship fantasy was about to blow up in her face, because she thought I would always be right where she left me. She never expected me to move on. She never expected me to sleep with her own sister. And she sure as hell never expected to lose. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. The room was dimly lit by the morning sun creeping in through half-closed blinds, and everything felt strangely calm, like the world was holding its breath. And then it hit me. This wasn't my apartment. The sheets weren't mine. The scent in the air, something faintly floral, something unfamiliar, wasn't Olivia's perfume. And then I felt the warmth beside me. Luna. She was still asleep, her dark hair spilling across the pillow, her breathing slow and steady. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing, because the weight of what I had just done came crashing down on me all at once. Not regret, because I didn't regret it, not even for a second. But this was the point of no return. There was no way to take this back. I had just done the one thing Olivia had never expected me to do. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I had taken back control. My phone was still buzzing. I glanced at the screen. Olivia. My stomach twisted, but I didn't pick up, because of course she was calling now. After weeks of acting like I was invisible, after treating me like a placeholder, after spending God knows how many nights out with other guys, now she suddenly remembered I existed. Now she wanted to talk. I let the call go to voicemail and slowly sat up. Luna stirred beside me, blinking up at me sleepily before stretching with a soft groan. There was no awkwardness, no guilt in her expression, just something almost amused, like she knew exactly what I was thinking. And honestly, she probably did. She just said I should check my messages. I frowned but grabbed my phone, unlocking it to find a series of texts from Olivia. At first, they were casual. She was asking if I wanted to do something that night. Dinner, maybe a movie. Like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't spent the past few weeks treating me like an afterthought. Then the texts became more insistent. She was asking where I was, why I wasn't answering. And then came the last one, the one that made my blood go cold. We need to talk. It's important. I barely had time to process it before my phone started ringing again. And this time, I answered. The second I picked up, Olivia exploded. She was screaming, demanding to know where I was, who I was with, why I hadn't been home. I didn't say anything at first. Just let her talk. Because I wasn't going to lie. Not anymore. So when she finally paused long enough to breathe, I told her the truth. I told her I had slept with someone. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then she asked me who. I told her. And that was when all hell broke loose. She lost it. Full-blown, screaming meltdown. I barely understood half of what she was saying, but I caught the words betrayal, disgusting, and how could you? Somewhere in the mix. She kept repeating that I had crossed a line, that what I did was different, that it wasn't the same as what she had been doing. And that was the most infuriating part, because according to her, her sleeping with other guys was exploring, but me sleeping with her sister? That was unforgivable. The hypocrisy was so unbelievable that I actually laughed, and that just made her even angrier. She said she was coming over. I told her not to bother, and then I hung up. I barely had time to get dressed before I heard the pounding on my apartment door. I wasn't even surprised. Olivia was never the type to calm down and think things through. She was the type to lash out immediately, without any regard for consequences. And sure enough, when I opened the door, she shoved past me and stormed inside like a hurricane. She was still in last night's outfit, her hair messy, her makeup slightly smudged. I realized she hadn't slept. She had probably found out hours ago and had been stewing in her own anger until she finally snapped. She was pacing the apartment, yelling about how I had ruined everything, how she couldn't believe I had done this to her. And the irony? She never once acknowledged what she had done to me. She never once admitted that she had been treating me like garbage for weeks. She never once considered that maybe, just maybe, this was her fault. Instead, she kept screaming about how I had betrayed her. And that's when Luna walked in. Luna didn't look remotely guilty. If anything, she looked bored, like she had expected this reaction from Olivia. And honestly, she probably had, because the moment Olivia saw her, she went completely ballistic. She started yelling at Luna, calling her a backstabbing whore and a pathetic excuse for a sister. Luna just folded her arms and raised an eyebrow. She told Olivia she had no right to be angry. That Olivia had spent weeks screwing around with strangers while expecting me to sit at home like a loyal puppy. And now that she had lost her grip on me, she couldn't handle it. Olivia wasn't mad that I had cheated. She was mad that I had moved on, that I had beaten her at her own game, that I had won. And Olivia, she couldn't handle that. She screamed that I had made the biggest mistake of my life, that I would never find someone like her again. I told her that was the whole point, and that was the final blow. She stood there, shaking with rage, her face red, her hands clenched into fists. And then she left, slamming the door so hard that the walls shook. After all the screaming and accusations, after she tried to convince herself that she was the victim, I thought I was done with her for good. But she wasn't done with me. At first, I didn't hear from her. For a few days, everything was silent. No texts, no calls, nothing. And I could tell that at first, she was waiting for me to come crawling back. She thought this was temporary. She thought I would wake up one morning, realize what a mistake I had made, and beg for her forgiveness. But when I didn't reach out, when I didn't so much as acknowledge her existence, when I went completely radio silent, that's when she cracked. The first text came at midnight, 3 days after the fight. Just a simple, "Can we talk?" I ignored it. The next morning, another one. I just need to understand why you did this. Then an hour later, "I still love you, you know. I don't think this has to be the end of us." I rolled my eyes and put my phone down. Then she called. I didn't answer. Then she called again and again. She must have called me 6 times in a row before she finally gave up. But I knew Olivia. I knew she wouldn't just walk away. And I was right. 2 days later, Olivia switched tactics. The messages stopped being about what I did wrong and started being about what she could do to fix things. She said she was willing to close the relationship. She said she had made a huge mistake. She claimed she didn't know why she had pushed for an open relationship in the first place, that she had only done it because she was scared of commitment. She said she had finally realized how much she loved me, and that if I just gave her another chance, she'd prove it. She even said she wanted to start therapy for us. I stared at my phone in disbelief, because this was the same woman who had spent weeks dating other people, treating me like a doormat, acting like I didn't matter. And now that she had lost me, now she was suddenly ready to be monogamous again. Now she wanted to fix things. It was actually pathetic, and I would have felt bad for her if I still cared. But I didn't, and that must have driven her insane. I found out from mutual friends that things got worse for Olivia after that. The dating scene wasn't as fun as she thought it would be. If anyone met her, it was for no more than one night. No one wanted to get involved with her. Apparently, she had tried going back to monogamy, but her reputation had already been ruined. The same people she had so eagerly jumped into bed with had spread the word about how she didn't believe in loyalty. And suddenly, she was alone. Completely, utterly alone. She had burned bridges with her sister. She had destroyed her relationship with me. And all she had left was the realization that she had ruined her own life. And the best part? It had nothing to do with me. This wasn't revenge. I hadn't gone out of my way to make her suffer. This was just karma. She had dug her own grave. And now, she had a lie in it. A few months after everything, Olivia sent me one last message. It was long, emotional, full of regrets. She said she was sorry. She said she wished she had never asked for an open relationship. She said she missed me, and for the first time, she didn't ask for another chance. She just wanted me to know that she knew she had messed up. I never responded, because there was nothing left to say. I had moved on. She had to live with the consequences of her own choices. She had gotten exactly what she wanted. She just never expected to hate it.